everybody, I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, normally this is the part where I'd say major spoiler alert, but we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. In honor of the holiday season, we've selected some of our favorite holiday classics, and today's is The Santa Claus with Tim Allen. So, without further ado, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down our favorite moments from the holiday classic, The Santa Claus, it's Jon Jon Rico!
Ho, 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 friends.
Ho, ho, ho!
How we doing?
Man, I look, I'm ready for the holiday season. I'm just like...
It's upon us.
I know, I'm slowly working myself into it. Like this was the first holiday, movie that, I kind of started watching, and I felt a little bit early, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because normally, yeah, you get into, you got to get into the movie. It's got to be post Thanksgiving. That's where I'm at.
Maybe we are post Thanksgiving.
We're talking to you from the future.
Yeah,
Anyway,
who knows?
Anyway, The Santa Claus. Look, there's so many funny moments in this, and I'm gonna do my best not to run over them and just turn this into hey, remember that part? That was really funny. But there's just so many. The thing I really liked about this movie, and have always kind of liked about this movie, because this is a pretty old movie at this point. We're thinking about this one. Is
94.
that there's a lot of funny moments in here, but a lot of them are relatably funny moments. The one that always comes to mind for me is when Scott is cooking, and then it pans away from the TV that had the cooking show on it, and he's using a fire extinguisher to put out the food that's burned all crazy and everything like that. I'm growing up, with me and my dad around for the holidays and stuff like that, there have definitely been a couple of times, maybe not flames going everywhere, but smoke alarms went off a lot. Shout out to my dad. He definitely was, a better cook than me, but there were definitely some trial and error moments, especially around the holidays.
Did you notice on the table all the food was burnt too?
Yes.
That is exactly why you want a high quality fire extinguisher right in the kitchen.
Those flames were really big, Dad.
I just like when Charlie turns and goes, those flames were really high.
Yeah, those are pretty big. Yeah.
But yeah, they're just that's what I really appreciated about this movie, is that they weren't it's a larger than life movie. Obviously, we're talking about Santa Claus and reindeers that kind of know how to communicate and stuff like that. But there are some funny moments that are partly placed in reality, type of thing.
Right.
And there are moments like that for comedy that I think really work. And those are the ones that even me watching it every year still hit. I still chuckled at that moment, rewatching that for this breakdown type of thing. Those are the moments that I remember from the movie. And those are the moments that I always enjoy revisiting. Basically, stuff like that. And like I said, I don't want to turn it into, remember that part? I really like that part. Remember that part? So before I get too far ahead of myself, Rico, what were some of your instant reactions from The Santa Claus?
Yeah, this is a movie that I've seen maybe a handful of times throughout my life. I remember watching it a couple times as a kid, but it's never one that I remember parts, specific parts from, I guess, growing up. So it was never too high up on my classic Christmas list. But rewatching it, there's a lot of it to enjoy. Of course, I love it. For a lot of different reasons. But one of the things I enjoy watching it back now is just seeing the different actors that are in it now. The more movies I've watched as I've grown up, the more I've become expanded into my actor knowledge, I guess. And seeing guys Peter Boyle, who I guess is best known for Young Frankenstein, and of course, Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yep, the dad. Yeah.
As the dad. Kind of seeing him in like this like very very small role, like he's in it for like probably a couple minutes and then he's gone. I'm like, dang, you got Peter Boyle in there. You got him in there for not even that long. So that's like it's crazy how many people are in there for like for just small glimpses like cameos. And then you got people like Judge Reinhold, who as I like grew up, I was like, oh, I know him as like the guy from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, as one of the older brothers, right? And then I've seen him in a few things, growing up. But he's always kind of been like that one familiar face from the '80s, I would say.
Yeah.
And then kind of seeing him look a little bit older, but he still has like that same face, and he does some great moments between him and Tim Allen as well. And then of course Eric Lloyd, who plays Charlie. Every time I see him, I just think of him in the movie Dunstan Checks In.
I'm so happy you mentioned that movie.
That's the only. Every time I see, he's like one of those kids that you like watched in multiple movies growing up. You're just like, I kind of relate to that kid every time I watch him. So he's very likable, and he kind of plays the same kid in every kind of movie, I think. And so I was just like, yeah, that kid was always just kind of brought some fun nostalgic memories for me. And then David Krumholtz, who plays Bernard, of course, the elf, is someone that would go. You see him in plenty of different stuff later on. A lot of comedic things. I've seen him in stuff like The League and stuff with like Seth Rogen. Oh, he's in Harold and Kumar. He plays one of the two guys that like
their friend.
Yeah, along with like Finch or whatever, or the guy who played Finch in American Pie, I think. And so I remember seeing him, and I've seen him in some more serious stuff too. But yeah, I just like seeing like all these like kind of like nostalgic actors from all these different worlds of acting, really, in this cool little Disney Santa Claus movie. So yeah, some fun nostalgia there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's gonna be the fun part about kind of this small holiday retro recap series that we're doing right now. We're diving back into the vault, so we're going to be able to see some actors that maybe at the time they weren't very big, but maybe down the line they're in other things that we appreciate them more for, and stuff like that. So it's gonna be pretty cool to
and there's even actors that are like, you see them in there and you're like, what happened to that person? What did they usually like the woman who plays the mom? I can't even know who the actress is because I can't name other things I've watched her in. But you're just like, man, there's like a time where some people were just like big and getting these roles, and they just had their moment. So yeah,
absolutely.
Very of the time.
Yeah. I think she had to have played a mom in something else.
Oh yeah, I'm sure if I looked up her stuff, they'll be like, she's most known for like this role, and it's like, oh, I didn't watch any of that stuff. So that's probably why she's not as most known to me.
Yeah, but you want to get to some big takeaways?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right. So look, before I say my takeaway, like I get it. This is a kids. This is a comedy holiday movie, but what I have to say, and the reason why I kind of, as a kid, I feel like I connected with this holiday movie kind of growing up, is the underlying is kind of dealing with something that I feel like before this movie, there weren't a lot of holiday movies that kind of dealt with this. And what I mean is dealing with the holidays and a kid that has like divorced parents, and how that kind of like, and that, like I said, it's a very kind of small part of this movie and stuff like that, but dealing with the two different families and dealing with holidays and stuff like that. And as a kid of divorce, basically, I did. And so like, there aren't a lot of holiday movies, or at the time, at least, there weren't a lot of holiday movies growing up and seeing that. And so I think that's kind of what has always kind of made this one of the holiday movies that I have always, appreciated, like I've always watched. And look, not to say that it's even like that's a theme of the movie or anything like that. I get it. Like I said, it's a Disney holiday comedy movie, but
it absolutely is a theme of the movie.
yeah. But I'm just saying, like, that underlying thing that I felt like at the time a lot of other kids weren't exactly dealing with that because they didn't make a lot of movies like that for a while. Like now it's more, where we see movies and kind of, there's a lot of different, kind of family elements and stuff like that. It's way like more widespread and kind of more common and definitely kind of like there are more themes about that. type of thing. But at the time, I really feel like there weren't too many. And so I think like me seeing that as a kid, I was like, oh, Charlie's like me. He gets it. I get it. I know what he's doing. But yeah, and so I think that's kind of why I've always had, a fondness of this. And look, there are plenty of other holiday movies that I immensely enjoy. I mean, coming to mind, even some really new ones like the Guardians Holiday Special is in my queue of I have to watch that every holiday season moving forward and stuff like that. And, more on this list of older movies that I definitely love also. But just that, I feel like has always been a reason why I've always kind of been fond of this movie, is just having that kind of, in there, that element in there and stuff like that. But Rico, what were some of your big takeaways from this movie?
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up, because something I was thinking about when it comes to this movie is that this is not the first movie I've seen where Tim Allen kind of plays this same role. I think of Jungle to Jungle, where he's really good at kind of playing like this guy who's out of his element. In this case, it's him having to be Santa Claus, right? And like him dealing with the elves and all that. And like, it's just the way that he deals with them banter wise, it's just funny in itself.
Hey, kid, who's in charge here?
You are. And I'm not a kid. I have pointy shoes that are older than me.
And then Jungle to Jungle is the way he deals with his son who was born in the Amazons over there, or South America. So like it's kind of funny. Like he's playing a divorced dad who has to learn how to kind of like develop this relationship with his son. And I think that's a role that he played really well in that time frame. That was kind of like where he did like what was most successful up until he played Buzz Lightyear. And I was thinking like there's a couple other movies made around that time that I love growing up, because I'm also a child divorce. And I was thinking of movies like Liar Liar and Mrs. Doubtfire, which are like, like a lot of these themes really did resonate with us kind of growing up. We just don't we don't pick up on them as a kid, but these are reasons why we love that movie and these movies, and we relate to them so much. And that's definitely like where the heart of this movie is. Of course, the relationship that he has to grow with his son, because at the beginning of the movie, Charlie does not want to hang out with him at all. He's like,
he goes, "You're gonna come back. Do I have to
pick me up at sunrise? Like as soon as the sun is up, you're here, and we're out, and we're gone." And I think that Tim Allen does a really good job of kind of playing like this, like a guy who's an asshole, but he's kind of got like this heart of gold that's kind of buried deep down inside and has to be brought out of him. And I think he's really good at doing that character arc as the movie goes on. I feel like the movie kind of peters off a little bit towards the middle, but as like they all get back together at the end, it kind of picks back up. Kind of like in that whole like the year has to go by before the next Christmas. But once it gets back in the next Christmas, like okay, now it's picking all back up again. But yeah, the father son aspect of the story, I think, is what really holds up the most. And yeah, picking up on those themes like you were talking about, they're tackled really well. And I think that the relationship's just really done well in this movie.
I completely like forgot about Jungle to Jungle.
Yeah, as I'm watching this movie, I'm like thinking like I didn't watch this movie because I was watching Jungle to Jungle. That's basically like my Tim Allen father-son movie. But you are right. Like we don't get a lot of holiday movies that deal with this, specifically holiday movies for sure.
Well, I do like at the time we didn't. But like maybe you're right. Like I didn't think of Jungle to Jungle and I didn't think of Mrs. Doubtfire, but I agree with you. I think that point that you just made is perfect, where like as a kid seeing those movies, I didn't pick up on that, but like us now,
it's funny to us.
Yeah. Us now, like, of course, like we pick up like the divorce aspect in Mrs. Doubtfire and Liar Liar and stuff like that.
That's the fun part, looking back on these movies as adults too.
Yeah. We have so many plans for the retro recap series in general, but like this every time we get to dive back into movies is going to be a lot more fun, and just kind of being able to kind of, hit old movies with like a fresh set of eyes and just kind of like dive back into these things and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm in complete agreement. I'm gonna have to go back and watch Jungle. That's all I can think about now. So I have to go back and watch Jungle the Jungle again.
Yeah. This was kind of like the Elf before Elf, really.
Right.
And it's not that long before Elf, too, when you think about it. It's only like 7 or 8 years, or maybe 9 years before it comes out. But it kind of tackles the same. It's a father-son story, kind of like Elf is at the heart of it. And But it's kind of the reverse because it's someone who is an elf coming to be in the normal world as
Right.
opposed to a normal man going into the Santa Claus world. So yeah, I think there's a lot of fun parallels with this movie that kind of play into other movies as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, what's really cool, I think, about this movie, and I'm using cool very loosely, but what I think is really cool about this movie is there is a lot of heart to it.
Mhm.
But there's a good mixture of comedy. And just like you were saying, the one thing I didn't think about, and I feel like this idea pops into my head every year, like if I do include this in my holiday watch of stuff, is it moves pretty quick. I get that, like, exactly. I understand what you're talking about, like where there's like some sections there just in the middle that kind of feel a little bit, but in general, I feel like this movie, it goes faster than what like I remember it being the previous year, or you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like it just goes quick. And
The
they
bits are all really fun. Like
right.
the transformation aspect of it is really funny when he's doing all that, like doing all that stuff one by one. I like all
Yeah.
that stuff.
And where his heartbeat is jingle bells. Uh,
Yeah.
and look, I have to mention at least one time. So the whole scene where the old Santa falls off the roof and
Yeah.
and that whole scene, one of my favorite lines of all time is it comes from Charlie.
You killed him.
Did not. And he's not Santa.
Well, he was.
Yeah. Well, he was. Yeah.
One of my favorite lines in the entire movie. I was like,
So
that's
good.
comedic gold. That is perfect. Like,
Yeah.
it
It was
gets
really
me
funny.
every time I watch it. I'm like, holy shit, the comedic timing on that line. But normally we go into predictions right now, being that this movie came out in 1994 and it's had plenty of sequels. We're gonna go into, I guess, fantasy predictions. You want to do some predictions?
Sure.
All right. Why don't you kick off predictions? And this would be if this movie, had come out recently or hadn't had any other sequels or a series now, I think part of Disneyplus, as a continuation.
I got nothing really. I got nothing as far as like a fanny position. I was just gonna say like this movie has sequels out there if you do want to watch it. There's a show that's going on right now.
The
Which
Clauses, I think. Is
yeah,
what it's
the
called.
Santa Clauses, which I feel like kind of directs more, like correlates more with this first movie. I feel like they're kind of doing some callbacks, I guess, to the original movie. And like I was talking about Charlie earlier, I had no idea that the actor who played Charlie did other stuff when he was not a little kid, to be honest, because I hadn't seen him in other stuff. And like he's been involved with this franchise going like in the past in the sequels, and like
Oh,
apparently he
yeah.
shows up in the show as well. So I'm like, yeah. So if you love this movie and want more of that, just keep watching all that stuff.
Well, that's what I was telling you. I was saying, like, look, the first one I said I loved. The second one I like it's
Yeah.
the follow-up sequel, and you were quick to tell me that there was a big gap in between the first one and the second one. I
Yeah.
did not realize that there was that far of a gap, because honestly, I don't remember if I actually watched this in 1994 or if I just saw it like a couple years
Yeah.
after it
I
came
always
out.
just remember seeing previews and stuff.
Yeah, I don't
for it.
remember seeing, like, I don't remember going, oh, I definitely saw this in the theaters or anything. So I think I'm already have seen it after the fact. So maybe in my head, I saw it closer to when the second one came out, and that's why I kind of thought they were like really
Oh,
close to each
interesting.
other type of thing.
Okay.
But the second one I think is really is pretty solid. It stands up also as a direct sequel to it. And what's cool, like I was telling you, is that the series that now is on Disneyplus and ongoing currently brings back a lot of those characters from the
Yeah.
first and the second one, because he gets a wife, a Mrs. Claus, in the sequel. And so that actress is back. Tim Allen's back. The son who plays Charlie's back. I think even Judge Reinhold is back
Oh,
for
awesome.
for like some of the episodes of the series. But what I was gonna say is I don't know, because I haven't watched the series. Spoiler alert. I just haven't. But what I was gonna say is what I would like to see if they were to make a new, like, the Santa Claus movie type of thing, is I would love to see something to the effect of Charlie actually, having to take over type of thing as Santa Claus. Not because he pushed him off the roof. I want to get that straight. There is a line in here, and I pointed it out before we started recording, where Charlie says, I think I want to get into the family business. And it irked me a little bit, because I was like, is that him saying that he wants to push his dad off a roof?
Yeah,
Like,
he's got to usurp his father.
the only way that you get to become Santa Claus is if the
Like
other
Game
two
of
are-
Thrones, but with
Yeah.
Santa Claus.
Yeah. It's an innocent line, but at the same time, it's like, is this little kid wanting to kill somebody? But what I would like to see is like maybe we get to the point where, Tim Allen, like Scott is getting like he wants to retire type of thing. He wants to go, retire and be with his wife and stuff like that. And Charlie has to take over, but like obviously like give us some like misadventures with Charlie type of thing, like trying to do it, but obviously there's some like bumps and bruises throughout the way type of thing. I'd like to see something like that where I think that could be a cool plot to a movie, or else like if he can't do it, then it goes to like somebody's got to push him off the roof. Or I don't know, something like as a bad outcome for like Charlie just not being able to do it type of thing. But I think it would be cool because then it would kind of go full circle of Charlie wanting to, be in the family business and eventually, be the next Santa Claus. I think it could be a cool like series of movies for like the new generation seeing holiday movies and stuff like that. We could bring it full circle. And then, maybe you have like guest appearances of some of the other, like Bernard all grown up, but he's got a son or you know what I mean? Like other elves.
But they're all-
what do you say?
Those are all supposed to be kids, the elves. How does he have a kid?
I don't know. I don't know how elves work.
Yeah. Okay. I'll play into the fantasy, like the fantasy storylines here. But okay, here's my idea. Okay, get ready for this. Buckle up.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
It's gonna be called Into the Santaverse.
Okay.
And so we got our Santa Claus here. We got Tim Allen. We got to bring in David Harbour from Violent Night. We got to bring in Billy Bob Thornton from Bad Santa. We got to bring in Kurt Russell from the Christmas Chronicles, like the other actual like magical Santa. And then we just got to do this whole thing like something's happening with this, like, the North Pole, is like their center, like where they all meet, and something's happening, and they all got to get together and stop it together because
they have to save Christmas for the multiverse.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, Santaverse. It's a Santaverse. Yes.
I like that.
Yeah, we do a CGI David Attenborough or Richard Attenborough from Miracle. And, Richard Attenborough, I believe. Okay. David Attenborough is the one that narrates the nature documentaries. But yeah, we got a whole bunch of Santas there we could do for a whole thing. You don't want to do like the Mickey Mouse Santas or whatever. You can do Jack Skellington Santa Claus. I like that. We got a whole bunch of variants we can mess with here. We got Fred Claus, Vince Vaughn. You can just bring him in.
That is kind of the line that I was thinking as far as Charlie getting into the family business.
When you were thinking that, I was thinking this sounds like Fred Claus.
Right. And that's what I was kind of like starting to like think of, like it could be a pretty funny comedy, both like for adults who are watching it who remember the Santa Claus and like kids type of thing. Like that's why I was kind of playing along like that line where it's like there are funny things in there for both adults that were around for the original The Santa Claus and like new generation type of thing.
Yeah. So I just think we need to get all of these cinematic Santas in one place and just have them interact.
Hey, if it's a good plot, I'm watching it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and the Santa from Elf.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking, which would have been a kind of crazy small connection, is if Tim Allen had played the Santa Claus in Elf type of thing.
That would have been funny.
Yeah, and it would have just kind of had that like unspoken connection type of thing. Like it wouldn't have been like they're definitely connected, but it would have just been like, kind of there type of thing. I thought that would have been cool. That was the only thing I wanted to make sure I noted, because I was like, that would have been like just smart thinking. And I get it. One was Disney and one was, I think, New Line was
something like that.
Elf.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Elf was New Line. So it would have been, some rights that they would have had to clear and
oh yeah.
Like that. But yeah. But anyway, as we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. Have you ever seen The Santa Claus? And if you have, what's your favorite moment? And what do you want to see kind of in the series? Have you checked out the series yet? And is it worth a watch? Maybe we will watch the series for one of our other holiday regular recaps and, recap it and try to relive and see how it connects. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notification to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.